to a section too?
Can tell how used to this I am.
At any time. Working with young actors, it's got to be a big responsibility.
It sure is. They're taken out of their own environment that they're used to. They're placed with adults for the most part. They're away from their friends. When they're on location, they're out of their own milieu completely. And of course, their education is changed, rather suddenly from a classroom scene to an individual scene, a one-on-one basis.
Who have you worked with?
Lots of children. Well, I've worked with Brooke Shields. I've worked with Jodie Foster. I've worked with little Noah Hathaway. I've worked with Kalina Kiff. I have to recall names. Some of them I've become very close to, and I still see and hear from, and we're good friends.
You almost have to be their mother and confessor and friend. Tell me about it.
In many ways, yes. You know, the child is pushed. They're on the set, then they're thrown into school, and they have to click off one wavelength and come in on another. And the teacher is there. And it's like a blotter, usually. Whatever frustrations go on the set, usually, if there's a rapport with the child, we will talk about it. Always. The individuals, the problems, the good things. And then there's mom or dad or whoever the guardian is who's always with them. And there are problems there sometimes. And the teacher gets that. Then, of course, if the teacher and the student don't get along, that's a whole other number. It isn't always sweet and honey, you know. There are times when the personalities don't mesh all the time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something. This is a very unusual situation. In terms of filming, you have a cast of characters who are very young. You know,
yes.
And it's an ensemble.
It's very close, yes.
So it's close-knit. How does that affect the children? Do you think the children thrive better there? Like, can you comment about that?
Well, when you say children, you have two of them who are 16 years old, Molly and Michael. The other three are older. They're in their 20s. They're portraying teenagers, but they're in their 20s. Their interests are somewhat different, and they are a little different. The initial meeting was all of them that have done something, and there was a mutual admiration scene where each one of them was admiring the other one and thrilled to be together. Then, little by little, the closeness and so forth brought out personality traits, and they tended to get closer or more separate according to their likes and dislikes. They still admire each other, very much so. But the close palsy-walsy immediacy of coming to a city that they didn't live in, this big need has dissipated somewhat. And they don't hang out together all the time. They don't even have time to hang out, really. They get off the set, they're exhausted. Of course, fortunately, we have John Hughes, who isn't too much older, and he plays with them. Yes. And of course, the two youngers, Molly and Michael, are with John quite a bit. Takes them to rock concerts, he and his wife, and they hang out together occasionally on the weekends. But the others, you know, they have friends that they've left back home. There are boyfriends, there are girlfriends for the older ones. So they're not really that close-knit anymore. Every once in a while there'll be a movie and they'll call each other. How about we go and see such and such? And then they'll all go together perhaps. But the immediate need that they had for each other has dissipated somewhat. And fortunately, they're all on good terms. There's no hostility there. Every once in a while, there'll be a quarrel about something. Nothing big, but, perhaps a word said in a scene that triggered something else, and that's typical of any human group that's together too long.
It's something that I think is kind of interesting.
from your perspective maybe, is this just a film that deals with children in the classroom?
Yes.
Being a teacher.
Yes.
Do you see the same type of things that happen in this movie happen in the classroom?
I used to teach in high school, and of course I was a French teacher, so I got the best kids. That's usually true. If the children need to take a language, it's usually Spanish, but French is usually a choice. And these are usually the best kids in the school, so I was spoiled. But every once in a while, I took over detention hall. It's very true. It's very, very true. I hope that I wasn't a Vernon. I certainly hope so. I don't think so because I didn't have the same rules and restrictions that Vernon had. I was only put into the detention room with them for somebody else. It wasn't my usual thing, and I tended to side with the kids. Unfortunately, when I was a teenager way back in New York, I was one of those. And I wasn't the good kid that Molly is. I tended to be more like Judd. I was not the sweetest little 16-year-old girl in high school, I must say. New York was a much different story.
I'm going to interrupt you 1 second so that we can change cassettes.
You're going to keep me talking. I'll talk for the rest of my life.
Just another 5 minutes.
Can we say some nice anecdotes? Maybe can you drum up, conjure up, draw upon memory any anecdotes that occurred on the set? That would be nice. And could be shared with an audience.
That's a quickie. You mean on this particular film? Well, for one thing, there is a closeness. There definitely is a closeness. They almost feel each other's vibes, and I suppose that comes with being in such close proximity. They're very protective. If anybody's, say, a grip or somebody on the show should put down anybody in the show, the kids are the first ones to protect them. They really are. They're not jealous of each other's scene stealings, you know. Oh, this one has more lines, this one. There's none of that. And I've seen that happen amongst adults when they're in close proximity. You know, there'll be all this backbiting. It's so refreshing to have kids because they're honest and they want to like each other, and they do like each other. They are, in fact, close as far as palsy-walsy because they're different ages. Michael and Molly are too much. I mean, they are funny together. They are so funny. Michael is the 16-year-old comedian bravado, and Molly is coming into her own and being a lady, and she's always above all this and so forth until Michael will get to her, and then the two of them wrestle like 10-year-olds. She forgets completely that she's Molly, the sophisticated young lady, and it all goes down the drain.
It's interesting with John, because he seems to be a man at feminine age, about 16, and really wishes he had stayed there.
I think so. It's marvelous that he can remember it that completely. You know, when I was John's age, I had wiped out a lot of that age. He wallows in it, and he loves the kids. He loves those children. And they know it.
They seem to be one and the same. They are.
Oh, yeah. They don't feel the slightest bit discomfort having him around.
I have to interrupt. Renee has to talk with you. Molly is, you don't have to come to Molly someplace.
Oh, I know. I know.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.